Yo, you are muted.
There we go. How's everyone doing tonight?
I think they're playing. I don't know.
Yeah, it is July. Thank you for joining us for episode 4 of Video Store Movie Club. Had to unfortunately skip June for unforeseen circumstances. We're finally back. We're still doing the films of Alejandro Amenabar. Hope I pronounced that
Yes.
correctly. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Also.
That being Thesis, Open Your Eyes, and The Sea Inside. I did the English pronunciations. I'm sure Nazario can hit us with the Spanish pronunciations. What are those?
Tesis,
Yes.
abre los ojos y el mar adentro.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Joining me is the League of Cinephiles singles champion.
I didn't bring my belt.
You didn't bring your belt, Nazario!
Damn it! I should have get my belt. I'll get it later.
You'll get it later, yes. Nazario, how are you doing tonight?
Extremely tired.
Fair.
With a small headache. But I like movies, so I watch movies.
Thank you so much, Nazario. Yeah, speaking of which, you can probably see it's only 2 of us. Mike, unfortunately, could not be here tonight. He's a little
He
tired.
died.
Or he died. That is the Video Store Movie Club canon we are going to go.
He may be resurrected at a later date, though.
Do we want to give a quick rest in peace in solidarity to Mike?
Sure.
Okay. Moment of silence. What is this show? All right, Nazario, I say we just head right into our first film, that being Thesis, released in 1996. Actually, before we head into the first film, why don't you give us a quick rundown? Why did you choose? Why did you want to cover the films of Alejandro Amenabar?
Alejandro Amenabar is a director that I discovered when I was a teenager. This was the first movie I watched. It kind of blew my mind. It had a definite style. At this point, basically, the only thing you heard from Spain was Pedro Almodovar, which is fine. He's a great director. He has also a very particular style. But then the thing was that we used to get like a bunch of Spanish language movies because, we live in Central America, and most of them were really bad. And then a friend of mine said, like, hey, there's a new horror movie, Thesis. I want to watch it. I was like, it's a Spanish movie. They suck. And I was like, you know what? But I'm going to be a good friend. I'm going to go with you. And I was shocked at how good it was. So when the next movie came out that I saw it was from the same director, I went by myself on a Wednesday at like 3. And it was fucking great. And then I watched another movie that is not being discussed today called La Lengua de las Mariposas, or The Butterfly's Tongue, which I later realized was like Amenabar was in it. I think he actually was like a composer or part of the crew, but he didn't direct it, and it was really, really good. So I was like, you know what? This guy has something. I enjoy his movies. Let's see what it goes. Then the weird thing is he made the jump to do an English language movie with actual stars, and like I don't know if he didn't like it or they didn't like him, but he didn't do it again. He did a couple more, but it was more like indie stuff or like direct to streaming shit. But like a big studio movie, I don't think he did it again. Anyway, I think he's very talented. I think he's a great writer and an interesting director, which is why I always recommend his movies.
Yeah, we obviously did Pedro Almodovar for our first episode. Really liked those films. Was really excited to watch all 3 of those films, and I'll just say it, I really enjoyed all of these movies. And is this his first? Was this his directorial debut?
I do think so. Let me double check on that, but I think so.
Okay, but yeah, like coming out of the gate with a movie like this is a creepy movie, and I think just showing the world like, yo, I'm a creepy fool, I think is really fun. To give the audience at home some insight, Thesis, it was released in 1996 in Spain. Never actually got a theatrical American release, but it is about a student who is doing a thesis on violence, and she ends up witnessing a. She ends up essentially watching a snuff film where she witnesses a murder in this film, and later she starts to realize that the person getting murdered is someone who used to work at the school. Uh, Desario, what are some of the things you really like?
First of all, yes, it's his first feature length film. He did four shorts before this, but this is his debut as a feature director. I like the ambience a lot. I like that it keeps you on the edge of your seat during the whole movie. The way he shots the scenes, even when things are not supposed to be scary. Like there is a scene at the beginning of this film when a college professor is going into a video library to get a movie. That is the most mundane thing you can think of in a film set in a film school. However, the tension is palpable because the music is great and there is this there is like this sense of uneasiness just because of the subject of the film. Like she is doing a thesis on violent imagery, right? For
Yes.
her for her film degree, and it just keeps you like thinking like things are always like a little more than they what they look, and I really like that ambience thing. And I also like that the movie itself, it's basically kind of like a thriller that gives you small little details every couple of minutes. Like there is a thing so particular in this movie that basically like you would think date the movie, but it doesn't really. It's just a thing that could only happen in 1996. I'm talking about how they figure out the camera that was
Oh
used for the thing. Like if you do this movie now, that could be anybody with a phone, but it actually works itself. Its 90s plays into the plot, which I really like.
I think the fact that this movie is about snuff films, which is already like a piece of the '70s, I think sort of shows that like it really helps the feeling of like you're going into the past. And yeah, I really like the location of being at a film school in the '90s. It's all about like different types of cameras. I think that was really fun. Yeah, like you said, I love how this movie just slowly starts to like build like little moments of tension. Like maybe my favorite scene in this movie is where is sort of like towards like the midway point of the movie. It's where Angela, who is the female lead, where she has not yet met Bosco, but Bosco first sees her, and we have this little like power walk chase through the school, and like they go through all these hallways, they go through like unpopulated areas in the school. It weirdly made me feel like I was watching Scream 2, but like less like a less comedic version of Scream 2. And I really enjoyed that.
I like the fact that she's following him,
Yeah.
and because she sees that he has the camera type that they figure out was the camera that was used for the thing. So it could be a coincidence. The guy could be a red herring, but she's interested enough to follow the guy. And midway through the scene, he figures out that she's following him. So he basically loses her. And when she realizes that she has lost him, she starts to look around, and it just out of nowhere, boom, there's the guy
There he
2 feet
is.
away from her, looking at her. It's a creepy scene. I really like it.
No, yeah. Movie set like if you're gonna make like a horror like I would definitely describe this as a horror movie. If you were to make a horror movie and set it in a college, that's usually a pretty good location for a horror movie because like college can be scary in general. There are a bunch of people you don't know. Many of them can be murderers. They're a bunch of weird people. And speaking of weird people, let's talk about the best character of this movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
Chema.
Chema, played by Fele Martinez. He's just a guy that's like obsessed with both snuff films and porn. He has like a large like
And
pornography.
gore. He likes gory movies.
Yeah, he
He's a
just
he's a thinner Mike Hanley.
he really is. He loves the disgusting part of the arts and like how like Angela first like comes by him. Like I just love how she's immediately like, oh, I'm like above you. Like, I'm not going to come to your level. And then just slowly, as they start getting more into the mystery, they start to become like really great like partners. And thankfully, there's never like a like romantic angle between these characters because like Chima's just too weird of a guy to do that. But like, I just love how they start like working together. What do you think about Chima?
He's definitely the best character in the movie, and
Yes.
and I love the little details, like the little jokes and the little asides that they do with his character, because it's something that I could have relate a lot when I was younger. Like I was weird, I was the weirdo who liked the weird movies and stuff. I didn't like the snuff films,
No.
but I like weird shit. But there's like a couple of scenes that are like perfect for me. It's like the one where he's like, "Yeah, you like this. You're so disgusting. You like the same shit I do. You just deny it. I bet you're so gross. You wouldn't even fuck me, right?" And then there's like a dead silence, and then he's like, "I have money." The other one is when her room gets ransacked and she gets like really paranoid about it. Like somebody knows we're looking into this. It's scary, and she calls him and says like, "You should check your room. If they ransack my room, they might have ransacked yours too." And then he looks around in his room and it's all like trash just because he's a slob. It's
Yeah.
like I don't know.
I don't
But
know.
my favorite scene, which is my favorite scene of the movie for stupidest reason. I don't like it's the stupidest reason, but I love it. Is when they figure out where they were keeping the snuff films inside of the school grounds
Yeah.
in a secret hallway that led to the backside of the video library. Which, by the way, the professor at the beginning should have known that that was not part of the curriculum, but he just went to the fucking like tunnels and he's like, "Hey, some movies are here. Weird." But when he's going with her, like they figure out they're going in the darkness, and she's like, "Say something. I'm scared." And he's just like, "I'm Chema, and I'm walking. I'm walking, and I'm Chema." Those things are correct. I
Yep.
love that. I just really love that.
He really kind of is like the like 90s version of Mike Hanley. Like if Mike Hanley was in like a film school, this is the guy he would be. And I do kind of love him for that reason. Yeah, Chema is awesome. We stand Chema. Honestly, like this is not my
Chema.
favorite. This is not my favorite of the three movies we watched. Chema might be my favorite character out of any of the movies we watched. Like this guy's just so awesome. In regards to some of the negatives I had about this movie, it is a mystery, and when you're having a mystery, you hope that like you're kind of shocked by like who is the one behind everything. I'll be honest, I was not shocked as to see who the person behind this whole snuff film was. Essentially, like there was a sketchy staff member of this school that is revealed early on in the movie. And when he's first introduced, I'm like, wow, this guy probably might be behind the snuff film that was just introduced. And by the end, it's like, oh look, he was behind the snuff film. Are there any other major negatives? And did that bother you, Nazario?
Uh, Not really. Like, yes, it was a little predictable because there's also the law of economy of characters. And this movie doesn't introduce that many characters. So you know that if they want to make somebody important, that person will have two, maybe three scenes
Mm,
before. So you just know who they are. And I think that is what happens in this movie because you're thinking that this person is like, at some point, you know that the main killer is being sponsored, right?
yes.
So when you figure that out, you just think like, well, there's like three people in the movie that could be it, maybe two. So it's obviously this one, right?
Yeah.
So when that happens, I'm like, well, yeah, but I did doubt the first time I watched the movie about the main killer because they show it to you like this is the guy, and you're like, fuck, he's a creepy bitch, so maybe he's the guy. And then they start to take it away from you. Like, hey, maybe it's just a guy who's been misinterpreted. Maybe what he's saying is true. Maybe this whole situation, it becomes possible to the point that the main character of the movie, the girl, which I forgot her name right now, uh,
Angela.
Angela. Even Angela is like, you know what, maybe, but not Chema.
No.
Chema's like, he a douche. I know he is douche. So, but yeah, even Angela is like, okay, so you actually like think with her, and they actually like even point the blame to my boy for a minute there. It's like, hey, who the fuck is the weirdo who likes this shit in the first place? And I cannot say that they didn't have a point.
No, yeah, like when the blame is placed on Chema, I think everyone's like, this they might be onto something. Like this guy is definitely like gives off some weird, creepy vibes. But yeah, I honestly just think this was a really fun, like grimy mystery. Like there are some shots where like Chema and Angela will just be talking in a closet, and it really kind of shows like both how low budget this movie is, but also how I think that like helps with the effect that it's trying to create. Like the his other two movies we're going to talk about tonight are definitely bigger productions, and you'll see with like some of the stars they got. But yeah,
Yeah.
I really did like the like small nature like feeling of like this cool thriller with this movie. Nazario, before we move on, is there anything else you want to say about Thesis?
Uh, if you haven't seen it, give it a shot, especially if you like horror movies. Although I don't know if it's a horror or just a thriller, because if it's a horror movie, the kill count is very low.
Yeah.
Like it's all about ambience and the mystery more than the kills. But I actually really would recommend it, especially because of Fele Martinez Chema, which is a memorable character. And just to get some like idea of what his style is, I think it's a good first watch, so you can like get into his other stuff later.
The non League of Cinephiles singles champion, would give it 4 stars. Nazario, you are the League of Cinephiles singles champion. What would you give this movie?
I'll give it 4 stars. I think it's really good. Like I think it goes beyond its budget, beyond the capability of some of its actors. You can tell like some of these people were like doing like acting for the first time, especially the side characters. But I do think this was one of the hit points that made Eduardo Noriega a big name. He was a big name in Spain for a long time. Like you can see him in stuff like the Devil's Backbone with
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Guillermo.
he's a big character in that movie, and he became a big name later, but he was solid here. And Fele Martinez, man, I just hope that guy keeps appearing in movies because he's fucking great.
Yeah, speaking of Eduardo Noriega, why don't we move on to our next film?
Okay, let me change that shit. Uh, Boom.
Boom! Open your eyes. Nazario, do you want to give the audience a quick synopsis on the film Open Your Eyes?
It's Vanilla Sky.
It is. It is. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Basically, we have Eduardo Noriega again, who is a guy who has everything he can have. He has good looks. He has money because his parents died and left him very well, very well seated with money. He has a best friend, which is Chema, but he shaved, so he looks different. He's what is his name in this movie? It's a really weird name.
His name.
Pelayo. Pelayo.
Yes.
That's not a real name, by the way. But like I don't know, they called him Pelayo. And then Pelayo is like the guy who's his sounding board. Like, hey, maybe you should start thinking of doing something with your life. But he's just a guy who loves to party, loves to have a good time. He doesn't want responsibilities. He doesn't want to deal with the other side of life because he doesn't have to. And then one day, Pelayo brings a girl to his birthday party. Not Pelayo's birthday party. That I just forgot. It's David Ames in Vanilla Sky. I forgot in this one. It's Cesar, I think.
Caesar. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Cesar.
Cesar. So I just call him David Ames. Cesar actually falls for Pelayo's girl, and even though he's his friend, and he's like, "Hey, you just met her too. I have a connection," and she has a connection with him too. By the way, it is Penelope Cruz in a very early role. She had already done some movies too. I think her debut is actually Hamon Hamon with Almodovar. No, wait, not Almodovar. Hamon Hamon is not Almodovar, but that is her debut movie, and she's really good in this. She's really sweet. She has like an earnest character. I will say this about Penelope Cruz. Every time I see her acting in Spanish, she
It's
kills.
at
She
100%.
she does never feel that natural in English language roles. She always feels awkward. So he falls for her, and then something happens, and Cesar needs to make a choice. He wants, can he do the responsible thing, or he just wants to keep doing what he's been doing? And the choice he makes dictates the rest of the film. That falls into something completely unexpected, unless you know what it is, because it's kind of like a descent into madness, but maybe not.
Yeah. There were some things I really really enjoyed about this movie. First off, I just want to talk about one of the points you said. Penelope Cruz. Yeah, like I think she's good when she's speaking in English, but when she is speaking in her native Spanish language, she is incredible in every single film I've seen her in. Like, there's a reason why Almodovar casted her in so many of his movies, and seeing her at such a
Oh
young,
yeah.
yeah, I want to say she was like maybe 23, 24 when she filmed this movie, and she is excellent as Caesar's love interest. And I also just love how well it sets up how well it sets up Caesar's motivations and like what happens to him. And it's the concept of the movie when the car accident scene happens and when he becomes just super disfigured. This movie does a phenomenal job at showing how like someone who has been so vain and so superficial in how he viewed the world and how he wanted people to appreciate him, that just being by his looks, and now that it's just been taken away, how do you go on living like that? We see the scenes where we see the mask be crafted, and yeah, it kind of covers him up, but it's still like not perfect. Yeah, I really like how this movie shows like the difference between like vanity and like actually like being a good person. What how do you think the movie handles the like facial deformity scenes, Nazario?
uh, I think they actually went for it in this one.
Yeah,
Like, if you have seen, again, if you have seen Vanilla Sky, Tom Cruise is still Tom Cruise. Like, he has like a gashing scar in his face, but he's still Tom Cruise. Cesar in this movie loses a freaking ear. Like,
yeah.
he does not have one ear. He has like a gash on one side of his face, a fallen eye in the other eyelid in the other side. He is not appealing. And for a guy who was this vain at the beginning of the movie, and his life is based around this, it feels like this is a heavy price to pay.
Um, I'm gonna say something. I'll admit it's a little unwoke, but it's the first thought I thought about when I was watching this movie. When Peter gets out of that car accident, he kind of looks like Sloth from the Goonies. Just the way how his face is just completely like it kind of looks like a weird Pablo Picasso painting. And yeah,
Are we not allowed to say that Slot looks weird now? What the fuck?
look, I just like saying the term unwoke because it's just funny.
Damn.
You brought that to me, Nazario. But yeah, yeah, like you said, I think the makeup artist really went for it, and I do think that is really really impressive. Um, one of the things I wasn't the biggest fan of is the framing device of this film. A lot of this film you see is told through flashbacks with Caesar's like interviews with kind of like his psychologist, sort of like trying to explain like everything that's going on. And like you said, this movie is trying to be like kind of like a slow descent into madness, but at the same time, like you also said, it might not be that. And I think while I was watching this movie, I was kind of hoping I would get some sort of an answer, and I just don't think. I think I just realized maybe a little bit too late that this movie is not going to give me like the answers I was quite expecting. What did you think of the framing device, Nazari?
I enjoy it. I do think like it's inevitable to compare the movie to the remake, which is Vanilla Sky, because to me personally, if you saw the top 100, Vanilla Sky is in my top 30s, like 30 something. I love the story that Amenabar made for this movie, but I do think that he, being a sophomore director from Spain with a more limited budget, he could not get reach the heights that Cameron Crowe and Tom Cruise did with the remake. And this is one of the points that I think the remake really improves on, because in the remake the psychiatrist is played by Kurt Russell, who I think the movie is trying to make the father figure for Cesar. Like, I think it's more overt in Vanilla Sky that David in that movie needs somebody that to be that father figure that he lost, and
Mm.
he died. He When his father died, his relationship with his son was not the best. So that is kind of his subconscious telling him he needs to latch onto somebody as a father figure. And I think Kurt Russell is a lot more endearing and a lot more personable with him than the guy playing the psychiatrist in this movie does. And I don't know if that's just the directing choice, but because it in the paper they even mention it, like maybe he's a father figure that you needed. They say it in the end, but they it does never really feel that, I don't know, natural. Maybe that's the word.
I think having an actor like Kurt Russell, the more you explain it, I think you probably needed just an actor with a little bit more gravitas
Yeah.
than maybe the one we got. Because yeah, just these scenes just kind of felt like they were lacking just a little something. And hearing from you that that's one of the ways that you think Vanilla Sky does improve upon, open your eyes. That does make me more intrigued to watch Vanilla Sky. Real quick, I know you've told me that you think Vanilla Sky is probably the superior version of the
Yeah.
story. Is there any more like specific ways you think that movie improves over this one?
Uh, I'll tell you, the one thing it doesn't improve on is Penelope Cruz, because she plays her the same character, but again, it's in English, so it
English.
feels a little less natural. I think Cameron Crowe improves a lot with the visuals and the ambience, because this movie is, yes, it's madness, but it's also kind of maybe a dream, right?
Yeah.
So the dream part, I think he handles beautifully with the way he makes the scene look, like the colors, the imagery. And they're also the things that you maybe not notice in other dream movies. That is, when you dream of things you know. And maybe that guy appears like it's somebody you know, or maybe the guy on the other side of the road looks like a famous artist, or like maybe you remember a scene happening that is like a cover of a music album that you love in your younger days, and you just have that in the back of your mind. I feel Cameron Crowe, who he's not the best at consistently directing movies, but he is the best at making soundtracks that mean something for the films he makes.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%.
So I think his visual styles and his soundtrack quality add a lot to that movie. So also the selection of actors that he uses, I mean, it's superior just because of the quality that they can give you. Like Tilda Swinton, is the seller for Ellie, and there's Kurt Russell as the psychiatrist. The best friend is Jason Lee,
Okay.
Mallrats and Alvin and the Chipmunks fame. Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise. Penelope Cruz plays herself. And those are the main characters. I forgot the name of the guy who actually owns Ellie. Like, I'll look it up. The actor, I that is a famous actor. I just forgot his name. Noah something, I think. But overall, I think it's more polished, which is what I think it is. It's the work of a bunch of actors, directors, filmmakers that are more seasoned in their style, polishing the weaker parts of. Oh fuck, Cameron fucking Diaz.
Yeah, she's in.
Cameron Diaz. It's the fucking best of that movie. Like she's limited in the role. She plays the role of what's her name in this one? Short black hair.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah.
Nuria.
Yeah.
Her character is called Nuria in Abre los Ojos.
Mm,
That's Cameron Diaz in Vanilla Sky. She has very limited scenes in the movie, but she should fucking have won an Oscar, and I will fight people for to the death for that. She is fucking transcendent. So I think most people have an issue with the way the movie develops. I think people have an issue that in the end, some people don't think that Caesar or David, depending on the movie you're watching, got the comeuppance he deserved because he actually gets something of a happy ending, right?
I guess.
But to me, he paid for his sins. I
I would
think he
agree.
paid for his sins by having this ordeal happen to him, and then he comes out on the other side with a different outlook to life, but he doesn't have Sofia anymore. He doesn't have Pelayo anymore. It's just he has to move on. He has to take the price he paid because of the choice he made, and you get to move on. And yeah, like if you ask people, they won't like the movie, but I don't know, man. I really love this. I really do.
I think that final scene on the tower really helps bring everything together, and I just think that's a really well directed scene. At the end of the day, while I do think the like gritty nature of a movie like Thesis kind of helps its style. I
One
do,
second.
yeah, absolutely. Sorry, technical issues.
Okay, sorry, I lost my audio.
You're totally good. Yeah. Hearing
Shit,
you.
wait, I'm still up.
Okay.
No, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Hearing you say
I have
that.
a little delay with you now.
Fair. Okay. Hearing you say that Vanilla Sky has a little bit more of a polished feel to it, definitely does sound like it would be more of a plus because just because, like you said, this movie has a lot of dream-like scenarios. So just maybe like a little bit more of like a floaty nature probably would have helped it a little bit more. But I do still think this is a really good movie. I would probably give it the same score as I give Thesis, that being 4 out of 5. What would you give this movie, Nazario?
The first time I watched this movie, I gave it a 5. The
That's
second
fair.
time I watched it, I gave it another 5. Uh, Watching it now, it's probably around the 4 to 4.5 range.
That's fair.
I will admit that, but I gave it a 5
Nice, nice. Yeah,
because I still love the film. The
mm,
thing is that I feel like there should be a difference when I have seen another one with the same script and I feel it's better.
that,
So maybe they're both 5s and one is just the better 5. It's kind of similar to what I feel about Let the Right One In and Let Me In. Like I can tell you objectively that the remake Let Me In it's better,
fair.
but I don't think that should take away from Let the Right One In.
No. I think ratings as a whole are always like on a different spectrum. Like maybe 1 5 is not as high as another 5, even though they're around the same range. Like I think when it comes to like comparing movies, I think just stopping at the rating is not always the way to go. Like
Yeah.
I completely get what you're saying, Nasario. But yeah, I say we head into the final movie that we're going to be talking about tonight. That being 2004's The Sea Inside. Do you have it?
This one does not have Fele Martinez or Eduardo Noriega.
No, it does not, but it does have Javier
Yeah.
Bardem, the wife of Penelope Cruz.
The
I
wife.
Yeah. Oh, the husband of Penelope Cruz.
Yeah.
Words there. I apologize. Yeah, this one is about a man who has been essentially paralyzed for almost 30 years, and he has been fighting the Spanish government to try and get it so that he is allowed to end his life on his terms, where the Spanish government is essentially saying, hey, look, if anyone helps you do this, they will be involved in a criminal activity. And he does not want to implicate any members of his family. He is not able to end his life on his own. So the entire movie is essentially just sort of a journey of him on the last stages of his life and trying to see if he is able to get this privilege. Nazario, real quick, how did you first discover the Sea Inside, and what were your quick thoughts on this movie?
By this time, I already was an Amenabar fan. Uh, he had also made the others
Mm,
by this point, which is a really good movie, actually. Like, I even considered putting it in the selection, but I was like, if somebody has seen any Amenabar movie, it's the others,
yeah,
because he has Nicole Kidman. It's a popular horror film.
I think most people know
So
the twist of that movie. Yeah,
yeah. So they basically, and that's what I said. Like, he tried Hollywood. Apparently, he didn't like it because this is what he made after.
fair,
And the one he made after this is Agora with Rachel Weisz, which, I mean, it is a studio movie, but it is different.
fair.
So by the time this movie came out, actually it won a bunch of awards in Spain, and it went to theaters here, which is not. It was starting to become uncommon. Like before, like when I said like in the '90s, we got a lot of like Latin and Spanish movies.
Mm,
Yeah, that was before the advent of the American blockbuster season.
fair.
Somewhere that started probably with Independence Day and Twister. Like
Mm,
every year after that, it started to become like more American cinema dominance in the theaters. And there were like one or two theaters that still showed like these kinds of movies, but like it's a small country, so if you missed it like in the first week, you were done. Like for example, Magnolia, I actually had to go watch at 5 p.m. on a Friday because that was the only showing they had for the movie a day, and then after a week it was gone. So this one actually came with a lot of fanfare because of all the awards it had. So it actually opened like a regular film, several theaters, multiple showtimes, and I was like, you know what, nice, because the guy deserves that attention. And so when I went to watch it, he was already a big deal, and the movie had won a bunch of awards. So I really, really enjoyed the fact that he was being finally celebrated. But then I watched it, and I'm glad that it was an actually great film.
no, yeah. From the first shot of this movie alone, this movie opens on like an incredible shot of a beach. From that first shot alone, I think Amenabar is kind of showing that like at least up compared to all three of the movies we talked about tonight, this is probably his most polished and, in my opinion, his best directed movie. Like from like a
Yeah.
filmmaking standpoint, and I just think the way how he captures beauty in some of these shots, like there was a scene where you see the diving accident that essentially paralyzed him, and it's brutal. Like when he dives into the water and you see just him hit the ground and just end his whole career as someone of this profession. And then in the scenes
He was a sailor. He was a
yeah,
sailor.
yeah. He was a sailor. He was diving, and then he had an accident. There's a scene later towards the movie where you think you're about to see that scene again, but instead, like he starts just flying around. I think that it's really, really beautiful. I also think like this movie honestly kind of emotionally wrecked me. Like it's dealing with a lot of heavy, heavy themes with wanting to seek your own death, and all of Ramon's relationships, whether it's with his doctor, whether it's with his brother, or whether it's with I believe the young person that he's with is his son.
No,
Um,
it's his nephew.
yes, is his nephew. All those relationships really really affected me, and that's what made this movie so effective. As I'm watching, is like, look, I you never want to tell someone to go down this path, but seeing where he's at, you understand why he just wants to not be a burden to his family and to other people, if that makes sense.
Like the way he sees his life, he feels like he's living a mockery of life.
Mm,
Like he feels like everything that he's experiencing now is an insult to the life he had before, because he was a very adventurous man. He became a sailor because he wanted to see the world, and he did. He went to Asia, he went to America, he went all over the world, and he experienced all these different things. And now the fact that he has to be in a bed and he cannot do anything for more than half his life. Like at the time of his death, he was 55 years old. You, by the way, you know this is a real person, right?
yes, yes. I looked that up afterwards. This movie's based on a true story, and I just think that's even more heartbreaking, honestly.
He was 55 when he died, and he had been 28 years on the chair, which means that he was without the chair for 27 years. So it's almost a split, like half and half. He even refused to use wheelchairs because he said they were a mockery of the freedom of movement that he once before experienced. So the thing is that Ramon San Pedro was so goddamn charismatic
Yeah.
that you could no people couldn't help but love him. Even the people who agreed that he was his choice to end his life because he wasn't living a life that he wanted. Even those people could not stop themselves from his saying like, you know what, maybe you stay. I really, really like you. I really, really love you. And it is like a cold, stark realization because he has to basically cut everybody like that. Like he is a lovable guy. He shares his knowledge. He shares his poems. He's a beautiful soul. But then people cannot help but love him and want him to stay, which is a little selfish if you think about it, because it is they want him to stay because of them, not because of him. They want them for because they love him and they want him to be around. And he's just like, even you, come on, like you are the person who we're supposed to know what's going on. So I actually really enjoyed that the fact that they do with I forgot her name, but she's also in Almodovar's movie a lot. Give me a second, I'll get her right quick.
Belen Rueda.
No, she's Julia. I meant Rosa, Lola Dueñas.
Yes.
Lola Dueñas. She was Penelope Cruz's sister in Volver,
Yeah, she's in there.
and she's also. Have you ever seen like the Broken Embraces?
I've not, but I do want to see that one.
She was a lip reader in that one,
Hmm.
and it's a small role, but it's very significant because I won't spoil it because the reason they wanted a lip reader, it's part of the movie. But yeah, I think she's great because they introduce her as the needy woman who does not understand. She's just like she feels like she has to save the guy. Like she heard about him. She's like, yeah, well, I'm the one who's gonna come here with my two kids, and I'm gonna show him life is worth living. And she's kind of a simple-minded person because she at the beginning she doesn't really understand why he wants to choose the things he wants to choose. But the more you get into it, it reminds me a lot of what is the, I am not good with movies today. Did you see that movie where Vince Vaughn had to go back to Thailand to go to jail to save Joaquin Phoenix?
Oh, is that that's not We Own the No, We Own the Nights with Wahlberg and Joaquin Phoenix.
No. This is a movie that Joaquin Phoenix got caught with drugs in Thailand, and you know that Thailand is kind of savage with the drug thing, right?
Yeah.
So because of the amount of drugs that they found him on, they were gonna kill him. Like
Is
he
it
was sentenced to death.
Return to Paradise?
Yes, that's the movie.
Sweet. Yep.
Basically, they told him like, if because of this amount of drugs, you are going to be executed. But since you live with your two friends here, you can split the sentence. If one of your friends comes back, you both will serve like 20 years, but you will be alive. And if the other one comes back and it's the three of you, you'll serve like 7 to 10 years, something like that. And there's a very like very strong difference between the Vince Vaughn character and the other friend, because one of them is like, it's the right thing to do. I am going to do it. I am very honorable. This is my friend. Blah blah blah. The other one is like, fuck, man. I'm living my fucking life. I'm in America. I don't want to go back.
Mhm.
But the way the movie develops, you see that sometimes the people who are honest with themselves are the ones that are more willing to actually sacrifice. Sometimes people say the right things because they think morally that's what's correct, but they don't really want to do it. I feel like it's a similar arc that happens with Rosa in this movie, because she comes with the idea like, I'm gonna save him, I'm gonna show him he's wrong, I'm gonna tell him that what love is, and she falls in love with him. Like,
Mhm.
this guy, for being a guy who's paraplegic, he's a player. Like, women love this man.
Oh yeah.
So when she realizes that she loves him, and then she doesn't want to save him anymore. She wants him to love her back and stay with her because of that. And he says, "You're still not getting it. This is not what I want. It is my life." The way her character turns in the end, she finally gets it, and she understands that true love, it's sacrifice and empathy. That is a great character arc. And I think it's the opposite arc of Belen Rueda's character, because she starts somewhere, then she empathizes, and then she cannot pull the trigger. Like, it's heartbreaking the moment that he gets the book. And as soon as they open it, and his nephew is like, "Hey, it's your book," he knew it. He didn't need anything else. He knew what happened. And then he's like, "Oh, and there's a letter." He didn't even have to read it.
No.
He knew what was there. And it's, sometimes people wanna be good. They wanna be the person that you need, but they just can't. And it's heartbreaking.
This movie does a phenomenal job at showing that Ramon is such like an artist with his words, with him being like, with Julia finding like his memoir and being like, you have to publish this, like how can you let this go unpublished, with all the characters finding like his poems in like different rooms. Like I think both the writing and Javier Bardem's brilliant performance shows how like likable this guy was, and how like I don't believe that being in a wheelchair is an insult to walking, but hearing him say it, like you kind of get behind him with like what he's saying, and like, look, if that's how you view it, I understand. Real quick, but before we head out, I think the fact this movie is handling a subject that is as tricky as assisted suicide in 2004, which was the same year that Million Dollar Baby came out. And I really like that movie. I think this movie honestly handles it in my opinion a better light than that movie. Of these two movies, which do you prefer?
I like $1 Million Baby.
Oh no, I really enjoy Million Dollar Baby. I just think this one handles it just a little bit better. I think it's just the fact that it's
Again,
all
it is the 5 stars versus the 5 star thing. Million
fair.
Dollar Baby is in my top 100.
Mm,
Well, but it's weird when you make those lists are weird, because I can objectively tell you this movie is better than Thesis, for example, but Thesis is in my 90s on my top 100, and this one is not. I guess sometimes you just have to go with what you feel like. But like, I also think that I also think that $1 Million Baby, it's a more ambitious film, because it wants several things. It wants you to see
yeah,
several things, not just about people wanting to die and the loved ones needing to accept it, which it does. It does deal with that. It's like the most significant part of the film, but it deals about second opportunities and learning to love again and to be a father figure. God damn, man, that movie is depressing.
oh yeah, no, it is a very good movie. I think this is also an incredible movie. I'm just gonna say this. This was my personal favorite of the movies you did bring to the table tonight, Nazario. If I were to rate this
Yeah.
on the star meter, I would probably give it 4.5 stars. What would you give it, Nazario?
I gave it a five. I
Yeah.
keep it a five. This is the thing. Like sometimes people like I don't know if I don't explain it correctly,
Mhm.
but this is my thing. My thing is like I don't think movies compete with other movies, except when they are direct remakes of each other. Like I can honestly tell you that I watched. Let me think of a good example for this. Give me a second.
You're good. Yep.
I'm gonna open my letterbox because I wanna see something here.
Yeah. Follow Mr. VHS on Letterbox. Nazario has a quite an
I
eclectic
think
letterbox
I think
sometimes.
it's my own name actually. Like Mr.
Oh,
DVD Mike. Mike has his Mr. DVD. I think I have my own name. Like for example, I think I gave. Oh, I gave this one five. That's not a good example. Jesus. Okay, give me 1 second. List them. Yeah, like for example, I watched Megan,
mhm.
and for me that was a three and a half star movie, right?
Yeah. I think I give it 3.5.
Yeah, and then I watched The Flash,
Mm-hmm.
and The Flash is not a good movie.
No.
It's I gave it a barely passable 3 stars.
Fair.
And even though I can tell you that Megan is a better film because of my affinity for the Flash, I can probably still rewatch Flash more easily than Megan.
No, that's fair. Yeah, ratings are subjective. They don't mean
So
every.
to me, a movie only has to deal with its own potential. Like if I watch a movie and I cannot think how I would improve it, like I think it does everything as best as it could, that's a 5 star movie. There may be another movie that I loved, but I was like, if it only did this little thing here, I think I would have given it five, and I give it 4.5. It's 4.5 because of its own potential, but that doesn't mean that for that 4.5 is not better than this five. For example, the movie I gave five to is Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, like the reboot they did.
Yeah,
Like that movie for what it wants to do is perfect. Like there's not a single thing I would improve of what it's even the bad guy when you connect to the real version, the real life version of that actor for that character,
yeah.
Chef's
No,
kiss.
yeah. No,
But it's not
I,
better than fucking Dune, for example.
yeah. Like I always like to rate movies on what they are trying to achieve, and a 5 star for this movie is not necessarily as equal as a 4.5 star for that movie. And I think it's just figuring out what each movie is trying to do. I think is how I personally like to rate movies. Rosario Montenegro, you're one of the wisest men to ever walk, honestly, the face of the earth. Maybe no, but
Ah,
at least one of the wisest men to walk the face of Panama. But yeah,
that
thank
that is yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for coming out tonight for the Video Store Movie Club. Thank you everyone for watching. Uh, so is what Mike said in the chat, is that what he's currently doing right now, or is that the actual theme we are?
I I have no idea. So put it in with a question mark in the end, and let's
Yeah,
see what happens.
yes. So we asked Mike, hey, do you have a theme for next month? And he didn't give us any movies, but he just said babysitting. I'm not sure if that's a theme or if that's just what he's doing right now, but tentatively we will announce the movies tomorrow. I'll make sure to do that. Thank you all for watching tonight. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the video store. We have great stuff coming out every day. Sorry, before we leave, is there anything you want to say?
I still am the League of Cinephiles singles champion, even though I forgot to bring my belt. I will be defending it soon against Batman. So wish me luck, I guess. I don't know. Maybe you don't give a shit. But if I win, think of all the memes with my belt. I don't want to lose that shit. That's it.
Good luck to Nazario, and from all of us here at the Video Store Movie Club, from me, Nazario, and of course Mike Hanley, class dismissed.
We'll continue this tomorrow. Class dismissed.
Good shit.